9 Eerie discoveries revealed in the woods, unexplained secrets that haunt the forest shadows. In the sleepy town of Maplewood, a shadow loomed over the familiar picket fences and laughter-filled streets. Thick trees whispered cautionary tales, and it was said that once you stepped into the woods, you might never come back. The secrets hidden beneath the twisted branches beckoned to those with a curious heart, a heart that would quickly be filled with dread. Stories circulated among the townsfolk, talk of strange lights glimmering like evil eyes in the dark, echoes of laughter that seemed to belong to those long gone, and even shadows that danced without bodies. An aura of terror mixed with intrigue surrounded the forest, a place Emma Larson knew well. She had spent her childhood playing nearby, blissfully ignorant of the dark history that whispered through those leaves. But that fateful day, everything changed. As the sun dipped low, casting an eerie glow, Emma gathered with other parents to share their fears about their children. Jake had been excited about the camping trip, his voice bubbling with hope, and Emma had shoved down her own anxiety, trusting the adults in charge. But now, an uneasy knot formed in her stomach as reports trickled in. The woods had claimed a child. The woods had claimed her son. The whispers intensified, recounting the first strange element, an old military hero, Private Thomas Hawthorne, who had vanished within that same forest decades ago. His memory seemed woven into the very fabric of Maplewood. They said the ghost of Thomas still wandered, searching for closure. Some claimed to have seen his figure at sunrise, draped in the morning mist, calling to lost souls. What if Jake was among them? Emma's heart raced. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma and a group of concerned parents arranged search parties, each discovery deepened their dread. A rusted medal, half buried in the earth. Was it a token of remembrance or a warning? Jake's friends recounted eerie stories around the campfire, shadows creeping closer, intertwining with their laughter until those moments turned to panic. Darkness began to seep into their hearts. They gathered flashlights and huddled, exchanging scared glances and whispering about lights seen flickering deep in the wood. Tension escalated. With every step they took, canopied by ominous branches, the past clawed at their sanity. What if the forest had a reckoning to settle? As unsettling echoes filled the air, mingling with the rustle of leaves, Emma grappled with her own startling realization. What if the truth behind those haunting myths tied her family to the very darkness threatening them now? As they reached a clearing, their voices quieted. The forest waited with a sinister patience, and they felt an ominous chill wrap around them. This wasn't just about finding Jake. It was about confronting a legacy that could consume them all. Emma's breath hitched. Would they uncover the buried past, a past that could unite or destroy them? Walls of trees loomed closer, and shadows flickered, asking one question: what secrets did the woods hold? Emma felt the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes upon her. The truth waited, shrouded in fog, just beyond reach, ready to draw them into the haunting. The clearing felt like a breath held too long. Twisted branches arched above, creating a veil of darkness so thick it pressed against Emma's skin. She stepped forward, her heart drumming loudly against her ribs, an unwelcome rhythm echoing the rustling leaves. "Did you hear that?" whispered one of the moms, her voice trembling. Everyone went still, straining to catch the ominous whispers around them, the countless secrets tucked away in the woods. Emma let out a shaky breath. How could she find Jake in this suffocating darkness? A low, keening sound drifted from deeper within the forest. It curled around their nerves, pulling at them like an old ghost beckoning for help. Emma's gut twisted. They had to keep searching, no matter how many warnings the woods gave them. Clenching her flashlight, she shone its beam into the deepening shadows. The flickering light danced over the ancient trees, revealing fleeting glimpses of their gnarled roots. They resembled hands reaching up, as if begging for release. "Emma!" Another parent called, breaking through the gathering dread. "Over here." As she turned, Emma felt it a rush of wind that made her shiver. They rushed to where the other parent stood, her face pale and eyes wide as saucers. "Look!" She pointed, and Emma followed her gaze. There, half buried in the underbrush, was something glimmering. It was a locket, ornate and shining like a fallen star. Emma knelt down, brushing away dirt and leaves. Her fingers tangled in the delicate chain, pulling it closer to her eyes. It was beautiful and haunting, but it felt wrong. "Anyone recognize this?" she asked, but the murmurs around her were filled with disbelief. "Could it hold some kind of connection to Jake?" urged one dad. Emma's pulse quickened. What if it belonged to Thomas? Maybe it's a clue. Suddenly, a yell fractured the tension. "It's too quiet!" shouted Jake's friend, panic spilling from his voice. "Where are the other kids?" The implication struck Emma hard. They had barely begun their search. Clubbing her fear down, she turned to her fellow parents. "We can't just stand here. We need to keep going." As they stumbled deeper into the woods, the trees became more twisted, more alive. The air vibrated with a static energy, the palpable sense of something lurking just beyond sight. Emma's heart raced like a drumbeat at the edge of a battle, each footstep heavy with dread. The only thing they could hear now was their collective breathing, punctuated by the occasional snapping of a twig, an unwelcome reminder of what hunted them in this suffocating gloom, and then they heard it. An unmistakable sound that cut through the leaves, a child's laughter, high-pitched and carefree, echoing through the trees. "Jake?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling as she strained to follow the sound. Was he nearby? Hope sparked in her chest, but along with it came a chilling realization: what if this laughter didn't belong to Jake at all? What if it's a trap? Someone muttered, voice shaky and filled with fear. The laughter echoed again, taunting, pulling them further into the labyrinth of trees. Emma swallowed hard, half tempted to turn back, but the need to find her son overpowered her instincts. "We have to find him," she urged, edging forward. "Where's this leading us?" one parent murmured, unease creeping into their hesitant steps. As they pressed onward, the laughter faded into an eerie silence, the oppressive shadows closing in. Emma knew they were approaching something far darker than she had anticipated. What awaited them deeper in the woods? Was it Jake? Or something far more sinister pretending to be him? Emma stopped in her tracks, feeling the weight of dread settling on her shoulders. The forest thickened, a living entity that seemed to pulse with hungry anticipation. With her heart in her throat, she called out for her son one more time, but the only response was the hushed rustle of leaves. Did the forest remember them all too well? Or would it lock them away forever in its haunted embrace? They were about to find out. The air felt heavier, it was as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Emma glanced back at the other parents, their faces pale, reflecting her own fear. They formed a shaky circle, moving closer together, as if strength could be found in numbers. Each step stretched the silence, and the distant laughter slipped away like a dream forgotten upon waking. "Keep moving," she whispered, summoning whatever courage remained within her. She took another step, her flashlight beam shaking slightly as fear pooled in her stomach. "Where do we go?" a parent asked, urgency coloring her voice. "What if we're just getting lost?" Emma scanned the darkening woods, worried that every shadow was a lurking danger. "We can't stop," she said, her conviction wavering. "Jake has to be out here somewhere." Suddenly, the rustling sound returned, louder this time. Something was moving within the bushes ahead. A glimpse of motion darted away just as Emma turned her head. "Did you see that?" she gasped. "What if it's him?" Jake's friend replied, his voice tinged with desperation. "Or something worse," murmured a mom, clutching the locket in her hand as if it were a lifeline. Emma felt that shiver run down her spine again, a fear so visceral, it was almost tangible. They pressed forward cautiously, a phalanx of frightened, but determined, faces pushing through the darkness. Then she saw a flicker of light in the distance, a flame dancing fiercely but alone. Hope surged within her, pulling her closer, as if it were a beacon calling out to be reached. "Look!" Emma exclaimed, raising her flashlight higher. "There!" The group hesitated, glancing among each other, fear battling against the flicker of hope. Once more, the curdling laughter rang out, and Emma's heart sank. It sounded nearer now, as if it were a game of hide-and-seek that had spiraled out of control. "Emma, maybe we should turn back," the dad suggested, his voice low and uncertain. "No!" she cried, frustration mounting. "I can't go back without Jake." Resolute, she steered them toward the light. Each step became an act of defiance against the overwhelming dread clawing at them from all sides. As they approached, the flames revealed themselves to be a small fire, its glow illuminating the grim faces of scattered toys encircled in wild branches. Emma's stomach dropped. The sinister reality of their discovery washed over her, as if the very air turned leaden. Who would set up a fire here? Someone whispered, eyeing the grotesque arrangement with unease. Mid-survey, Emma caught sight of a small, plastic action figure lying face down among the twigs, Jake's favorite toy. It was the kind of thing one expected to find in a child's room, not in the eerie depths of the dark woods. Her heart thundered louder, a frantic plea for reassurance. "Look!" Emma pointed at the action figure. "That's Jake's." Before they could even react, a low growl rose from the shadows beyond the flickering light, deep and guttural, sending chills sweeping through them. The hair on the back of Emma's neck stood on end. Something was waiting in the dark, a presence that felt all too real. "We need to go," shouted one of the parents, panic rising unmistakably in her voice, but Emma couldn't move. Something in the depths of the woods called to her, pulling her closer to its secrets. The shadows shifted again, an unsettling rustle echoing in tune with her racing heart. In that moment, a glint caught her eye just past the fire's light. She turned, breathlessly hopeful, but what she saw stole her breath away. A figure stood there, silhouetted against the darkness. Emma's heart jumped. Was it Jake? "Mom?" the figure murmured, barely audible over the snap and crackle of the fire. Then the figure stepped closer, and with every inch it took, her hope twisted into fear. It wasn't Jake, but a child she didn't recognize. "What do you want?" Emma demanded, her voice wavering. The child smiled, a chilling grin that stretched too wide. "They're waiting for you, all of you." And at that moment, the forest shuddered, as if it had finally awakened. What sinister game had begun? And would they be able to escape? Emma's mind raced as she realized they were far from done with the horrors of the night. As the shadows closed in, a new laughter echoed in the distance, this one not belonging to children, but to something else entirely. The child's smile deepened, an eerie reflection of the fear etched on Emma's face. She felt her heart pound against her ribcage, each beat a desperate echo in the still air. "What do you mean they're waiting for us?" Emma struggled to keep her voice steady, but it trembled like a fragile leaf in the wind. The child remained unfazed, as if the darkness didn't bother him at all. "They want to play," he said, his words slathered in something ominous, something playful yet sinister. "You can't hide. They see everything." A cold gust of wind swept through the trees, and Emma caught the glint of movement just behind the boy, a flicker that sent a chill through her. "We shouldn't be here, we need to go." One of the parents gasped, glancing nervously around as the laughter echoed again, closer this time. "Please, we need to find Jake," Emma pleaded, her eyes darting between the boy and the gathering darkness. But the child merely grinned wider, revealing teeth too white against the murky backdrop, as if his very existence mocked their fear. "Jake is here. They're with him," he said cryptically, stepping further into the firelight. His skin appeared almost translucent, shimmering in the flicker. Emma shivered. She felt as if something was pushing against her chest, a weight she couldn't shake. "We have to search now," Emma declared, but her voice broke under the strain of urgency. "Emma, please," the dad implored again, his voice breaking. "What if this is a trap? Then we'll spring it. We can't abandon our children. Not now." Her heart surged with anger and fear, mixing like oil and water, simmering just below the surface. The forest breathed, exhaling through leaves that rustled like whispered secrets. With a deep breath, she steeled her resolve and turned to the boy. "What do you know? Where is Jake?" It was then the forest erupted with laughter, rich, dark, and echoing all around them. The child's expression was one of delight. "They want to play tag, but the rules are different here." Emma's blood turned to ice. She felt a surge of panic clawing its way up her throat. "What rules?" "Once you're tagged, you can't leave," he said, his voice lilting with a playful sing-song, as if he were reciting some nursery rhyme. "It's a game for eternity. Run!" Someone shouted. Chaos erupted as limbs flailed and bodies stumbled with renewed terror. Emma felt the world shrink around her as they broke into a desperate sprint, her flashlight beam bouncing wildly through the trees, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Every rustle in the underbrush seemed to pulse with intent. The laughter trailed behind them, swirling through the air like a wicked breeze. "Over here. This way," Emma called, leading the group toward a narrow path obscured by thick underbrush. They dashed into the unknown, hearts racing faster than their feet could carry them. As they plunged deeper into the woods, Emma's mind raced. Each corner they turned only led to more shadows, more echoes of that haunting laughter. What had ensnared them was beyond what they could have imagined. It was not just a game. Then, abruptly, the ground beneath their feet trembled as if something enormous was stirring beneath the surface. Emma stumbled but regained her footing, looking back to see the terror reflected in the faces around her. "We have to keep going," she urged, but the forest grew silent again, every breath caught in the throats of the parents behind her. She pressed on, guided only by faint glimmers of hope and the erratic pulse of her heartbeat. There, just ahead, she saw another flicker of light, dull this time, pulsing like a dying star. But as she drew closer, dread washed over her. Would this lead them to safety, or deeper into the trap? "Emma, wait!" A voice called too late. Before she could turn, something lunged from the shadows, dark and swift, its growl merging with that haunting laughter echoing around them. What had they awakened? And could they outrun the darkness before it consumed them all? The night deepened as dread curled its fingers tighter around their throats, a silent promise of what was to come. Emma's heart raced, echoing against the panic-stricken silence that enveloped them. The dark shape shot past her, an indistinct blur of menace in the dim light. A chill spread through her bones, paralyzing her, but she forced her legs to move, urging the others to follow her lead. "Keep moving," she shouted again, the urgency in her voice clawing at her throat. They stumbled through the brush, each footfall a desperate prayer against the wood's painful grip. The laughter surged behind them, tearing through the fog of fear and slicing through the night air like a knife. Emma felt each haunting chuckle vibrate in her chest, amplifying the terror that wrapped around her. Suddenly, the flicker of light pulsed again, brighter this time. It beckoned her like a moth drawn to a flame, but doubt twisted in her gut. What if it's all part of the game? A parent gasped behind her, panic echoing in their voice. "Then we play to win," Emma yelled, though she felt a crack in her confidence. The ripple of anxiety gripped her, but she couldn't let them see it. They needed hope, however fragile. As they broke through the thicket and into a small clearing, the light solidified into a shape, a flickering lantern swinging gently from a gnarled branch. It illuminated the haphazard remnants of old camping gear scattered on the ground, a cracked tent, half-burnt marshmallows, and more eerily, photographs strewn about, faces frozen in smiles that now felt haunted. Each picture felt like a gaze piercing through the stifling darkness. "Is this?" Emma whispered, her words faltering as she bent to gather one of the photos. It was of children, laughing and full of life. A wave of grief surged through her, each face vaguely familiar. "Jake!" she exclaimed, recognizing one boy she hadn't noticed before. He was there, vibrant and joyous, surrounded by those who looked unervingly like the kids they had brought on the trip. The final picture stuck in her mind, a snapshot of a campfire, its glow dancing eerily, reminiscent of the flickering light now holding them hostage. "Keep looking. There has to be something here," Emma urged. The others hesitated, eyes flitting nervously around the tree line. Then they spotted movement, shadows creeping nearer, dark figures slipping silently from the underbrush. With a shaky breath, she stepped forward, fueled by instinct as the chill air grew heavier around them. "This can't be just a memory, it can't end like this," she muttered, grounding herself in the moment. As the shadows drew closer, the laughter changed, it twisted into a mocking melody, full of malice. "Tag, you're it!" echoed through the trees, each word resonating like a death knell. Emma's heart plummeted. A bitter realization clawed at her, the game was both metaphor and trap. "Emma!" One of the parents, Lisa, suddenly yelled, a wild look in her eyes. "Get the lantern." That flickering hope was their only light against the encroaching dark. Emma lunged toward the lantern, fumbling with its cold metal. Just as she grasped it, a rush of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the light and plunging them into a suffocating darkness. "Stay close," Emma barked, adrenaline driving her resolve. The laughter became cacophonous, swirling around them, each echo a taunt, each shadow a threat, but then, there was a sudden stillness. The woods held their breath, and for a moment, the darkness grew thick enough to taste. A chilling whisper drifted through the blackness. "You can't escape, they're waiting for you." Emma's skin prickled, her instinct screaming at her. Where were they? What were they really waiting for? As she fumbled to switch the lantern back on, the ground beneath her felt alive, alive like it was breathing. And then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and growing closer. Something was hunting them, but it wasn't mere shadows. In the thick darkness, she realized, they weren't just playing. They were being hunted. "Emma," a voice quivered, and she spun, searching for the source. But who among them was still untouched by the game? Before she could wonder any longer, a fierce howl pierced the night, and they were no longer just participants. They were the prey. What lay ahead in the darkness? Could they reclaim their fates, or would they too join the laughter echoing through the haunted woods? Emma's fingers fumbled with the lantern, her breath quickening as the footsteps closed in, each resonating beat reminding her that dread rapidly escalated. With a desperate flick, the light sputtered back to life, casting an uncertain glow, flickering like their fragile hope. "Over here!" she shouted, gesturing for the group to huddle close, their faces pale and wide-eyed. They all crowded together, the warmth of their bodies contrasting the encroaching chill, yet it offered little comfort. The laughter echoed again, but more sinister now. It twisted and wrapped around them, each note a taunt, drumming against the space between heartbeats. "Do you want to play?" A childlike voice sang out, deliberately sweet but laced with venom. "Who's there?" Emma demanded, her voice steady even as fear clawed at her insides. "Show yourself." Something shifted in the shadows, a murmur, a rustling, fleeting flashes of movement just beyond the lantern's reach. One of the parents, Mark, clenched his fists at his sides, his face taut. "We need to find a way out of this place," he insisted, trying to sound brave but failing to mask his trembling. The very air felt thick with a presence, a weight on their chests. Emma could feel it too, an electric hum of anticipation mingling with their terror. "No one's leaving until we understand what we're facing," Emma asserted. As she stood her ground, the lantern light danced across the clearing, revealing an altar-like formation made of twisted branches and stones, almost ceremonial in appearance. In the center was a crudely drawn circle, the ground blackened and charred. "What is that?" Lisa whispered, her eyes darting between Emma and the dark periphery. It looks like a ritual site. The laughter crescendoed into a manic scream that echoed through the trees. Emma felt the cold seep into her bones, but she clenched her jaw, refusing to give in to panic. We need to stick together. If we move as one, we can face whatever this is. Just as the last word left her mouth, the shadows lunged forward, coalescing into distinct shapes. Children, their faces twisted and gaunt, their eyes hollow yet filled with the inescapable hunger of the lost. Each one wore expressions of twisted glee, gleefully reaffirming their dark nature. Come play with us. One of them shrieked, a cracked voice that sent shivers along Emma's spine. Some of the parents faltered, eyes glazing over in terror, while others steeled against the darkness. Emma felt a surge of rage against her fear. Who are you? She shouted, aiming her voice at the throng of specters. What do you want from us? Their laughter deepened, resonant with echoes of the past and promises of despair. Not what we want, but what you hide, another child said, stepping forward, its lips stretching into a grin that exposed jagged teeth. Emma's heart raced as realization slammed into her heart. It wasn't just a game. It was a reckoning. What are they waiting for? She asked, turning to the others, the urgency in her voice raw. They want us to confront what we can't face, our fears, our secrets. As if her declaration invited a response, the figure lunged, framing Emma with a laugh that chilled her blood. Tag, you're it! It shrieked, before scrambling away into the shadows. The panic ignited within her. Everyone, stay alert. Emma barked, but the shadows closed around them, more alive than before. The trees whispered with 1,000 expectations. From somewhere deep in the dark, something sinister and powerful was awakening, drawn to their fear and confusion. In that moment, Emma braced herself. They were about to uncover the truth lurking just beyond the light. Run! She screamed suddenly, feeling the primal instinct of survival kick in as panic filled the air. They bolted, the children of shadows howling in pursuit. The forest came alive with their every footfall echoing against the swelling laughter and the ever-looming dread, but as they ran, Emma couldn't shake the thought, what if the game wasn't about escaping? What if, instead, the haunted woods demanded something more from them? What would they have to sacrifice to emerge unscathed? In that instant, she understood, it wasn't just a game of hide and seek. It was a test of courage in the face of unrelenting darkness. And the true horror lay not in what chased them, but in what they would have to confront, each haunting secret unwinding through the depths of their own hearts. Could Emma lead them to victory? Or would the woods claim them, alongside the spirits of the children lost within their grasp? The answers lurked in the shadowed corners as they sprinted, fueled by breathless fear, with every step leading them deeper into the grim unknown. The underbrush rustled violently as they stumbled over roots and rocks, the forest floor slick with dampness that seemed to claw at their heels. Emma held the lantern high, its feeble light flickering against the looming trees. Every flash cast grotesque shadows, making it painfully clear that they were not alone. Where are we going? Mark gasped, wiping sweat from his brow even as the cold seeped into his skin. His eyes darted, searching the darkness for any signs of pursuit. We need to find an exit. Emma shook her head, trying to keep her voice steady. We can't just run blindly. We have to make a choice, face them, or a shrill scream cut her off, echoing through the trees like a wail of despair. The harsh, key-changing laughter rose to a pitch that rattled in her skull. The air grew heavier, suffocating, as if the forest itself were holding its breath, waiting for their next move. Look! Lisa pointed. Ahead lay a clearing filled with remnants of life, a broken swing set, rusting bicycles, and weathered toys half buried in the undergrowth. Emma felt a shiver crawl up her spine. Their laughter had led them here, directly into the hollow heart of loss. Wait! Emma commanded, holding her hand out to stop the group. This is what they wanted us to find. This is why they're here. But what do we do? Mark was frantic now, the fight leaving his eyes in exchange for pleading desperation. We can't linger. Something rustled again, closer now, and Emma turned. The children's shadowy figures with hollow eyes were approaching. They danced around the edges of their light, giddy and chaotic, a whirl of pale limbs and reeking malice. Play with us. They screeched, the invitation twisting into a command. Emma swallowed hard, suppressing the surge of terror within her. We need to show them we're not afraid, she said, searching her friend's eyes for resolve. Whatever they want from us, we can't let fear control us. This isn't about bravery. Mark shouted, his voice cracking. This is madness. Madness or not, it's our only choice, Emma replied, her heart pounding. We stand together, we show them our truths or we'll never escape this nightmare. With a collective breath, they stepped forward into the clearing. The laughter grew louder, mocking, rising and falling like a malevolent tide. Emma's lantern cast their shadows long and wild, creating a flickering barrier between them and the children. I have something, Lisa stammered, reaching into her pocket. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out a worn-out photograph, edges frayed and yellowing with age. It showed her and a younger brother, bursting with laughter at a park she barely recognized now. He's gone, she said, her voice cracking. And I never got to say goodbye. The little figures paused, confusion flickering in their hollow eyes. The laughter dimmed to an eerie hush, as if the very nature of the game shifted. They whirled around Lisa, reaching for the photograph, their hands like shadows reaching for light. Let him see you, Emma urged, feeling an odd sense of purpose swell. I can't. Lisa began, but Emma pressed forward. I'll help you, Emma steadied her breath. We face this together. As the pressure mounted, a whisper of recognition coursed through the children of shadows. One stepped closer, its gaunt figure towering over them, eyes glinting black. What else do you hide? It rasped, body shifting like the wind through the trees. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had kept so much buried within, her own secrets and fears gnawing at her insides, waiting for a moment like this. Each of us has something, she stuttered, renewed conviction filling her voice. Just then, the wind howled, a fierce rush that swept away the unnatural silence. Was there still time? The truth, terrifying and raw, clawed at her resolve. As they stood on the edge of revealing themselves, she couldn't help but wonder, was the darkness more afraid of their secrets than they were? And if they dared to confront their truths, what would rise to meet them? The lantern flickered ominously, the shadows closing in once more. Emma's heart raced. They were running out of time. Sacrifice. She gasped, the profound weight of that word crashing down on them. In that fleeting moment, their fates hung in the balance. Would they unveil what was hidden, a price to pay for their escape, or would the depths of their secrets devour them whole? As the figures darkened before them, a chilling laughter began to rise anew, eagerly awaiting the next move. What they would discover in the dark could change everything or annihilate them completely. The laughter swirled around them like a tempest, and Emma felt its icy grip tighten. The children of shadows shifted, their faces masks of hunger, hungry for acceptance, for revelation. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, racing against the storm of dread. Sacrifice. The word reverberated, a challenge born out of desperation. But what did it mean for them? Was it about exposing their pasts, or something darker altogether? Let us not be a target, Mark said, voice trembling as he stepped back. They smell fear. We have to stand firm. Emma's grip on the lantern tightened. It doesn't just take courage. It's about trust between us. We can't let them break us. But even as she spoke, doubt lingered in her mind. The shadows around them flickered, pulsing with an energy that felt alive. Would revealing their truths expose their vulnerabilities or give them strength? Lisa's breath came quick. What if they want something else? We've been running, maybe they need us to confront the worst part of ourselves. She hesitated, her eyes darting toward the twisted trees that loomed like watchful giants. I never told anyone about that day the fire. Emma's stomach dropped. But we can't know. Lisa shouted suddenly, her voice firm like a whip of wind. I'm tired of hiding. I thought I was protecting myself. But maybe the truth is what we need to break free. The shadows paused, leaning closer, hungry for more. Their laughter dimmed. A hushed anticipation settled, thick as fog. Mark opened his mouth to protest, but Emma stepped in front of him. Let us show them. We owe it to ourselves. She turned to Lisa. This is our chance, Lisa. Let them see the truth of what happened. With shaking hands, Lisa held the photograph close, tears shimmering at the edges of her eyes. I was there when it happened. I might have saved him if I hadn't been so scared. The words slipped out, raw and bleeding with regret. I just stood by, watching it burn, watching him call for me. A guttural sound emanated from the shadows, a mixture of empathy and malice. They leaned closer, their forms trembling with anticipation. The darkness hungered for the stories, a ghastly promise of acceptance waiting just beyond the pain. Mark looked between them, his resolve faltering. What if it doesn't help? What if we just feed them more? Better than doing nothing. Emma replied, feeling the fierce storm churn in her chest. There's power in facing our demons together. Slowly, Mark's face drained of color, but his eyes flickered with something stronger than fear: determination. Okay, I'll go next. He inhaled deeply, shoulders squared as he took a step forward. It's been years since I faced it, the day my dad. His voice trembled, the memory clawing its way back. I blamed myself. Thought if I had just stayed, maybe. The shadows shivered, seeming to absorb each confession like a sponge, drawing closer as if they could sense the weight of every remembered pain. What else? The towering figure rasped again, and for the first time, Emma saw its eyes flicker with something akin to curious hope. It was a moment of agonizing vulnerability, but Emma felt emboldened, and she glanced at each of her friends. I'm next. The lantern dimmed, casting strange shapes against the trees as she shared her own burdens of guilt that had dwelt in the corners of her heart. Emma spoke of her brother who had left, all traces of him erased after that night. Of how she had spent sleepless nights thinking of words unspoken, wishes ungranted, every revelation wove around them like a tapestry, binding them together in shared agony and growth. The figures began to sway, their laughter morphing into something less sinister, a hum of understanding that vibrated through the air. But then, the echoes returned, a sudden snapping of twigs, breaking the fragile connection they had forged. Everything shifted. The shadows froze, their hollow eyes widening. Were they losing control? Suddenly, from the depths of the woods, a low growl rumbled like thunder. It felt like the very earth itself was shaking with fury. Emma's heart raced. Something was coming, and it wasn't just the shadows that wanted to feed on their pain. Hold on! Emma shouted, grasping the lantern tightly. Whatever it is, we face it together. But dark shapes began to emerge from the trees, hulking forms that made the children's silhouettes seem like a distant memory. Chills raced down her spine, and she realized with horror they were not the only ones lurking in the woods. As the first menacing figure stepped into the flickering light, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the true nightmare was just beginning. What had they provoked in revealing their truths? The ground beneath trembled as the forest environment shifted, concealing more secrets than they had ever imagined. Would the darkness embrace them, or did it have something far worse in store? Emma's voice faltered, the uncertainty creeping back in as the figures moved closer. The growl deepened, a visceral rumble that vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. Emma clutched the lantern as if it were a lifeline, heart pounding. The shadows danced in a chaotic rhythm, their forms twisting and warping, but the hulking shapes emerging from the woods were solid, terrifying, and undeniable. What is that? Mark whispered, his voice barely rising above the rustling leaves. "I don't know," Emma replied, her breath hitching. "But it feels alive." As the creatures stepped into the dim light, she could see them more clearly. Muscular limbs glistened with a sheen that made them appear both oily and ethereal. Their faces wore grim expressions, twisted and monstrous, eyes glowing like dying embers. The very air thickened with their presence, stale and heavy. "Run!" Lisa shrieked, but the words barely left her mouth before the first beast lunged, its claws outstretched. Without thinking, Emma pulled her friends back, her feet moving before her mind could register fear. "Stick together. Don't split up," she yelled, her heart racing. They darted sideways, slipping deeper into the clutches of the twisted trees, deeper into the shadows that had almost felt like friends just moments before. Branches clawed at their clothes, scratching their skin, but Emma pressed on, pulling Mark and Lisa close. "This way!" she shouted, leading them down a narrow path that opened like a portal into the darker heart of the woods. Behind them, the growling intensified, a chorus of sounds that shook the ground and sent shivers up Emma's spine. It was as if the forest itself had awakened, angry at their defiance, demanding they pay the price for revealing their secrets. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, not one of the hulking beasts, but a girl, no older than they were. Her dark hair flowed wildly as if caught in an unseen wind. Emma blinked in surprise. "Help!" the girl cried, terror etched across her face. "They're coming." The trio hesitated, unsure if they could trust this apparition or if she was yet another trick of the shadows. But the desperate look in her eyes made their decision for them. "Where?" Mark shouted, fighting against the instinct to flee. "Follow me." She turned and dashed into the thicket, and with a shared glance, Emma, Mark, and Lisa raced after her. They pushed through the underbrush, the terrain becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. Twisted roots snaked like tendrils, and the sounds of pursuit grew closer, guttural and hungry. Emma's lungs burned, and fear gripped her tightly. "Why are they after us?" Lisa panted as they stumbled onward. "Because you're not just shadows," the girl said over her shoulder. "You're different. You've awoken something in the woods." "What do you mean?" Emma gasped. The girl looked back, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and urgency. "You talked about your pain. The forest feeds on that, your emotions call to it. You have to face it, not just to survive, but to close the door you opened." Emma felt a lump in her throat, the weight of the girl's words pressing in on her. Could it be true? Had they unwittingly drawn these creatures to them by unearthing their pasts? They burst into a small clearing, moonlight flooding in, creating an oasis amidst the darkness. But even in this momentary refuge, the growls began to echo, reverberating off the trees. "Stand together!" Emma shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. "This won't end until we confront what's after us." As the monstrous figures circled, Emma clenched her fists, determination coursing through her veins. "We can't let the shadows take us. We have to wield our truth as our weapon." The air crackled with tension, and one of the hulking beasts stepped closer, its breath hot and rancid. "Truth? Do you think that'll save you?" Emma stared down the creature, her heart racing. "It has to. We're not afraid anymore." But the shadows only laughed, and that laugh echoed, deep and menacing, rising and rising as if mocking her resolve. Suddenly, a distant howl pierced the air, making the beasts pause. A flicker of doubt crossed their grotesque faces. And for the first time, confusion rippled among them. "What is that?" Mark whispered, eyes wide. "I don't know," Emma replied, a knot of anxiety twisting tighter in her chest. "But it might be our way out." But before she could finish, the shadows surged forward once more, drawn by the sound, and the clearing erupted in chaos. Would their newfound courage win the day, or had they unleashed something beyond their comprehension? The ominous howl grew louder, and Emma's instincts screamed for her to act. Together. she shouted, bracing for whatever would happen next. But as the shadows closed in, she realized some truths might be too powerful to bear. What awaited them beyond the darkness? The clearing trembled with tension, each second stretching like a taut wire ready to snap. Emma's heart raced like a wild drum, the sounds of the dark creatures circling them growing nearer, more insistent. Shadows slithered and curled around the edges of their flickering light, closing in with a malice that clung to the air. "Remember who we are," Emma shouted, her voice breaking through the din of their growls. "We're not just haunted fears. We are mothers, fathers, friends. We have love in us." As if grasping her courage, the parents around her nodded, their gazes locking onto each other, a pact forming within the chaos. "Yes, we're fighting for Jake, for all the kids lost to this darkness," Mark echoed, stepping forward, igniting the spark of defiance. With a collective deep breath, they held the lantern higher, bathing the clearing in a warm glow that began to push back the grasping shadows. "Do you feel that?" Lisa whispered, almost in disbelief, as the air shifted. The dark shapes wavered, an unsettling uncertainty creeping into their eyes. "They didn't expect us to stand together." The lead creature growled, body rippling, the intent to strike flashing through its grotesque features. "You're just delaying the inevitable," it rasped, voice layered with otherworldly echoes. "What power can love wield against the truth you try to hide?" But Emma stood firm, anchoring herself in the moment, their lives, their sorrows, and this last stand. "You underestimate us. Our truth isn't weakness, it's our strength. We are here for our children, and we carry their hopes." Something flickered deep within the beast's hollow eyes, a flash of hesitation, a hint of remembering. Emma seized the moment, her voice ringing clear. "You might call for our pain, but we're ready to confront it. Together." As if answering her call, the night erupted with sounds not of laughter or terror, but of kinship, of camaraderie. The winds picked up, whipping through the trees, a protective surge carrying their words upward, scattering the shadows momentarily. "Take what you want," Emma cried. "Take our sorrows, our fears, but leave our children." With every heavy exhalation, she felt a layer of burden slip away, her heart shedding the weight of grief and doubt. Each parent joined in, voices intertwining like a spell binding the darkness itself. "We see you. We accept you." The shadows convulsed. Growls morphed into shrieks of confusion. They writhed, uncertain of how to combat truths that loomed larger than the fears they thrived on. Emma wished for Jake, wishing he could feel this moment the shift of power, the light of unity, and there it was, a beam tearing through the darkness, the lantern burning brighter in their hands, fueled by the weight of their shared truth. Suddenly, a chorus of howls erupted beyond the edges of the clearing, shattering the tension. It wasn't just any howl, it soared like a choir, echoing some forgotten history that made the beasts falter. The shadow figures seemed to share a glance, a spark of recognition igniting deep within them. Emma looked toward the sound, eyes widening as angels of light swept through the forest, figures from forgotten memories, childhood friends, parents, and siblings lost to sorrow, all there, gathering strength to counter the darkness. They swirled and swayed, lending the air a brightness that shattered the grip of despair, and the monsters at the edge of the clearing recoiled as if burned. The child with the wild hair returned. "Together, we are stronger. Together, we can fight," she cried, weaving through the gathering light. "And reclaim what we lost." Another voice echoed, an eerie harmony connecting the scattered souls. Emma's soul soared. The ground began to quake with each shared confession. The lantern burst into radiant brilliance, illuminating the area with a vibrancy that transformed the shadows into mere silhouettes, reducing their once terrifying forms to nothing more than fleeting shadows. "Now!" Emma shouted. "This is our moment. Push them back." With that, united under the glow of acceptance, they raised the lantern higher and charged toward the dark creatures. A torrent of raw energy surged forward, washing over the shadows, uprooting their essence. The echoes of laughter twisted into cries of desperation as they were engulfed by the blinding warmth, shattering apart like brittle glass. The woods shuddered, branches resonating with a pulse of life as though awakening from a long slumber. The final beast snarled and, with a sweep of its claw, retreated into the thickening shadows, vanishing into the depths of the forest where it would remain captive to its own despair. As the echoes receded, a profound silence washed over the clearing. Emma glanced around at her fellow parents, their faces lit not just by the lantern but by triumph and relief. "We did it," Emma gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Jake?" The silence enveloped Emma's worry, wrapping it in weight. Then, a movement in the underbrush caught her eye. A figure came lurching forth, ragged and dirty, but undeniably alive. Heart pounding, she recognized the wild curls and familiar bright eyes shining with recognition and fear. "Mom!" Jake cried, collapsing into her arms. "Thank God," she sobbed, cradling him close, feeling warmth spread through her body. The rest of the parents rushed forward, embracing their own children, an overwhelming swell of joy cascading through the group. As the lantern flickered one last time, the ethereal light swallowed the clearing, illuminating the memories and hopes long hidden beneath anguish. They had reclaimed something precious: unity, love, and the light within, igniting a spark against the darkness. Emma held Jake tightly, seeing in him the glimmer of all that was yet to come. They stood together, a tapestry of survival weaving through the dim trees, testimony of strength and love. Shadows banished, secrets unveiled. With renewed spirit, they stepped back toward the familiar borders of Maplewood, where laughter once echoed unburdened through the streets. No more whispers of fear would haunt these woods, for the darkness had been faced and defeated. Now, with hearts lighter, they could finally tell a new story. Don't let this moment pass. You need to subscribe now so you can catch our next thrilling tales. Smash that like button now to boost this content, and keep the algorithm alive. Flood the comments below with your thoughts on Emma's journey and what it means to you. And don't wait even one more second, immediately share this video with 5 friends who need to hear this triumphant conclusion. Your support means the world.